What's up? I'm back. Now I'm going to do another sex game YouTube video that'll get on both my YouTube channels, and then I'm going to do another video on the NBA playoffs for the Eastern Conference semifinals. As you know, Kawhi Leonard hit a three at the last minute, and the score was 92-90, and the Toronto Raptors are going to the third round. And I'll make a video on my predictions on the Bucks versus the Raptors and what I think is going to happen in that series matchup. Now, this is sex game, sex with young women and the rules. Because you see, a lot of these pickup artists, a lot of these dating coaches, they don't talk about that there's actually rules when it comes to dating young women from the age of 18 to 29. They always just tell you, go date young women, go date young women. You know, leave older women alone, leave fat women alone, and go after young women. And you see, what you have to understand is, even if you can physically, sexually attract young, attractive women, even if you have some sex appeal, even if you use money, looks, and status to get young, attractive women, there are rules you gotta follow. There are some rules that they don't talk about in those pickup artist seminars that go on for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. There's stuff they don't talk about in their YouTube videos or in their books. And they do that intentionally on purpose to make you spend more money. And then by the time you get in your late 40s, early 50s, when it's almost 3 decades later, that's when you find out there's actually rules for dating young, attractive women. Now, what you have to understand is if you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s, you got to understand that when a young, attractive woman from the age of 18 to 29, it's actually supposed to be 18 to 27, but I'm putting 18 to 29 to be very nice, that when these women find you physically, sexually attractive, when they see that you got sex appeal, there's a certain thing you have to do. I'm going to tell you the rules of dating young, attractive women. Number one, it doesn't matter if you have them in order or out of order. I'm just going to tell you the rules because they don't like to tell you this, because the pickup artist knows if he tells you this, you'll never listen to the pickup artist ever again. Same thing for the dating coach. They know this information, but they like to wait until the last minute, or they like to wait intentionally on purpose years later to tell it. This is something that you find out from personal experience, or as my boy Solo TV84 said, you got to be a practitioner. You got to go out into the field to find this information out. Now, when you get the attention of young, attractive women, there's 3 things that hurt you from moving forward with young women. One is called talking yourself out of an opportunity. Translation, talking yourself out of getting laid and getting some ass. A lot of times, men talk too much, and when you talk too much, that can make a woman very angry and very irritated. How do I know? Because I'm 33 years old, and I've actually done the experiment, and what I found out was, if you talk way too much, and it has nothing to do with if you're social or not social. It's more if you're not sociable, but if you're sociable, you can kind of get away with it to an extent. But if you talk too much, the girl will get angry and agitated very fast, very quick. And you will potentially kill and destroy 90% of the sexual attraction. And it becomes impossible to get back. Meaning it could be 6 months later, it could be a year later, it could be 2 to 3 years later before you can get that 90% sexual attraction back. And sometimes there are some cases where 2 to 3 years go by and you still can't get it back. It'd be almost 10 years later before you can get that 90% of sexual attraction back. So number one is be careful what you say, because that can always be used against you much later on. Number 2, don't always try to come off as being her father or grandfather. This is a mistake I and 10 other older guys in our 30s and 40s have made. I'm not 40, but I'm in my 30s. But there are stories of guys in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s who make this mistake a lot. If you try to talk to a girl like you're a police officer or a firefighter or an authority figure, okay, that's one thing. But there is a thin line between coming off like the person's father or grandfather and doing it too much. It's like a cross between being a woman's father or grandfather and an asshole. If you're an asshole, she might find that appealing for a bit. And then eventually she'll get tired of you being an asshole. But if you come off being a father or a grandfather, she's not going to find that physically, sexually attractive because she's going to go, oh, great, I can't use no profanity language around him because every time I do, he acts like my father or my grandfather. And this is universal. This don't matter if it's black women, white women, Mexican women, some Asian women that are 18 to 27 or 18 to 29. They don't like when you try to police them when it comes to their foul language. I mean, you can say it at least 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times, but after a while, they're going to get irritated. And usually that leads to a girl rejecting you. Now, here comes the most difficult part. If the girl starts to dress sexually provocative, if she's got anywhere between 3 to 5 tattoos, or she got like a series of tattoos, as in 5 to 10 tattoos and body piercings, she's doing it to see if that turns you on or if that turns you off. Now, if you signal to her with your eyes and body language that you like it, she'll keep doing it. If you signal with your face and your eyes and your body language that she don't like it, one or two things might happen. She might continue to do it or actually respect your wishes and don't do it. But when you open your mouth verbally and say it, it goes back to rule number 1. Be careful what you say because that can be used against you much later on. See, when women leave a younger man from the age of 18 to 29, the reason why women leave men in their 20s is because those men have no experience. Those guys don't have a house, an apartment yet. Those guys don't have a car. The guy might have 2 jobs or 3 jobs, but he don't have no house, no apartment, no car. He's not established. I already made a YouTube video this past weekend called Your 20s versus Your 30s. You might want to go back and watch that video. Because in that video, I specifically said all throughout your 20s, you're going to experience age discrimination everywhere. Now, when you get in your 30s and your 40s, life is much more fun and more fulfilling. But there are cases where guys in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s, by accident, because they don't know what it feels like to finally get the attention of a woman they like and they find physically, sexually attractive, and they accidentally kill and destroy 90% of the sexual attraction. And it could take 6 months, it could take a year, it could take 2 to 3 years to get it back. And sometimes you don't ever get it back. It'd be almost 10 years later before you get it back. By the time it's 10 years later, that woman is now 30 to 35 years old, and you're probably in your 50s or 60s, and you're not going to find her physically, sexually attractive because she'd have hit that wall. And now you got to go find you another younger woman because when she finally starts to come around, she's too old and you can't do nothing with her. I mean, you might be able to do something with her, but what I mean is when you first got her in her prime, you didn't know the rules. There are rules for dating young, hot, attractive women. See, those pickup artists and dating coaches, they lie to you 90% of the time. Remember what I said in my video? 90% bullshit, 10% truth. I'm going to say it again. 90% bullshit, 10% truth. The pickup artists and the dating coaches, they lie 90% of the time. And they only tell the truth only 10% of the time. And you have to understand that. Because they're all about making money. And even if the dating coach does tell you the truth, it's only because he wants his money. Same thing with the pickup artists. They only tell the truth because they only want their money. But my point is, these are rules. And it don't matter if it's a black woman, a white woman, or a Mexican woman that's from the age of 18 to 27 or from the age of 18 to 29. There are rules. You gotta be careful what you say because they can get in their feelings and they can get too emotional, and then they're gonna think that every time they say something or do something, you don't like it. And then when you start to remind them of their father or their grandfather too much, then that's a problem to them. Another rule is you got to learn how to have fun. If you're always angry and pissed off, that's not a turn on, that's a turn off. As soon as you start bitching and complaining about how life sucks and how things are just not what they're supposed to be, that's not a turn on, that's a turn off. And it don't matter if the girl is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. A girl could be 24 years old. And if they hear you complain 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, at some point in the relationship or in the friendship or whatever, she's going to dump you. Because when she come to you, she always hear you talk bad. She don't ever hear you talk positive. Doesn't matter if you have a bad day at work or at the gym or some jackass cuts you off on the street. She don't want to hear you bitch and complain. Because when she come home, what do you think she hear when she come home? People complaining. If she's trying to cheat on her boyfriend that's 18 or 20 or 24 years old, if she's trying to cheat on her boyfriend, she don't want to hear you complain because her boyfriend complain. When she go to work, she hear her co-workers complain. When she go get some lunch and dinner and she's stuck in line for 35, 45 minutes, she hearing people complain. And when she come to you, what she got to hear? You complain. She don't want to hear you complain. Doesn't matter if you're having a bad day. Doesn't matter if you got cut off on the street. Because usually that's one of the main causes for a girl saying, okay, this thing ain't going to work. You 35, 40, 45 years old. I can't deal with this. Then you get dumped. And then you're trying to figure out why she's trying to date a younger man all of a sudden. Because she thought that an older man was going to be better than dating a younger guy. So when she come to you in the beginning, it's because she figured you're older, you're more mature, you're more established, you're more experienced. And one of the mistakes guys make in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s is they talk too much by saying stupid stuff, and then they don't realize that kills 90% of the sexual attraction. And like I said, it could take 6 months, it could take a year, it could take 2 to 3 years, and then 80% of the time, you don't ever get that attraction back. And then you got to move on to another young, attractive girl, and then you can't do the same mistake twice. So if you get another 18-year-old girl a year or 2 years later, even if it's not an 18-year-old, let's say you want to date women from the ages of 20 to 29. Well, the rules still apply. You still have to be careful what you say and what you do. And there's another rule that they don't tell you about. If one woman like you, all of them like you. If one woman hates your guts, all of them hate your guts. That means they can destroy your reputation from the inside out if you act too much like an asshole. Because what happens is, if you break up with that girl dump you, you can get with the next young hot girl. Problem is, once your reputation's been destroyed and trashed, it's hard to convince all the other girls after that one that you're not what she say you are. Because she'll go pass the word around, oh, he's a good guy, he likes to have fun, he's well-traveled, he can speak 3 to 5 different languages, he's seen the world, he's been to 5 different countries. She'll pass the word around that you're very good. But if you've been an asshole, like me, I'm an asshole that tells the truth. But the point is, if you're an asshole, she will go tell every single female, don't mess with him. He's arrogant. He's a dick. He don't respect your feelings. He think about himself. They'll go tell other girls, and that will destroy and trash your reputation. And it can take years, as in 5, maybe almost 10 years, to get people to stop using that against you. Like, it'd be hard for them to stop using it against you. And what you don't get is, it don't matter if it's true or if it's not true. Once your reputation gets destroyed and trashed, now you gotta be like those basketball players where you gotta let 6 months or a year or sometimes 2 to 3 years go by before you can go back out in the market and start all over again. Now, that I explained that part of the situation, now let's get to why you got to follow these rules. Because there's a certain period when you can say something, but it's like a movie. In the first act, you can't say nothing. Even if you want to say something, you can't. It's usually towards the middle or the end of the movie that you have to say something. So let's say you try to say something the first 3 months. Nope, not going to work, because to the girl, 3 months is too fast. You might say, well, I'm going to try to say something in 6 months. Again, to the girl, that's still too short and too fast. Now, if it gets to 9 months, that's kind of long. If you can stretch it out to 10, that's long. You can say something, but then you got to be quiet again. So I tell you the rules, because a lot of guys, when they date younger women, they don't know the rules. Now, here's one of the best things that help you not kill 90% of the sexual attraction. It's better to be quiet than to try to be so talkative because you want to fit in. This is a mistake I made last year at my job, because I was surrounded by none but young people, and I was trying to understand people that's in their 20s. If you're in your 30s and you're surrounded by 20-something-year-olds, sometimes it's better for you to be quiet and not say anything. Because a lot of times you might complain, and you see, they'll look at you like, why you always complain? I thought older guys are experienced, and they have experience with the situation. And I know a lot of you guys are going to say, well, I never got to date young, attractive women in high school and college because I was always rejected. And that's what causes you to kill 90% of the attraction, because you're not used to getting the attention. And when you get the attention, you still don't know how to handle the attention. So if you're 30, then you got to go talk to guys that are 45 or 50 or 55 or 60, so you can know how to not create those problems. See, when a guy 50 or 60 years old come in, he knows what to do, he knows what not to do. He knows what to say and what not to say to young, attractive women. And that's why the guys in their 50s and their 60s hardly ever mess up. It's usually guys in their 30s and 40s that mess up. Every now and then a guy in his 50s might mess up. What I'm trying to say is, these are rules because they don't tell you the rules. And they do this intentionally on purpose. And you see, what you're supposed to look for is for the young, attractive girl to signal that it's okay for you to talk, and signal when it's not okay to talk. You got to wait for her to signal you, I'm having a good day or I'm having a bad day. You got to wait for her to signal it. Now, because of feminism and because of Me Too, the first 3 to 5 years, you can't really do too much with a young, attractive girl. That's why a lot of guys exclude women from the ages of 18 to 21, because the first 4 years, I can't really do anything. So usually guys start dating girls 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, right in the middle of their prime, so they can get away from that, oh, she's too emotional. And even when you do that, the rules still apply. Because even if you try to date a girl that's 22, 23, 24, because you're still 10, maybe 15, 20 years older than her, she still can get emotional and still sensitive, and you still got to be careful what you say. You still got to watch what you do. Now, the reason why a lot of young women be thinking they can punk an older guy is because he stops going from being masculine to being just like her younger male counterpart. And that's one of the worst things you can do to kill 90% of the attraction even faster. She'll be trying to fight you physically because you stopped being a man and you gave up your position. And then she thinks she can have power over you, when the reality is you're supposed to have all the power and all the control. What I'm trying to explain to you is, you got to watch what you say and watch what you do. Now, that I explain all the rules, let's get to when an older man starts to wonder, when is she going to finally let me in and take her out to lunch and dinner? That's going to be a long process, okay? That's like the NBA playoffs. You know, you're going to lose your first 2 or 3 years in the NBA playoffs. So your first 2 to 3 years or even 4 years, it's going to be hell if you right off the bat mess with an 18-year-old. Can't do nothing the first year. Sometimes it's just best not to say anything or do anything if you're not sure. Like, if you strike a conversation up, you have to, like, find some way not to go overboard. Because then what happens is she dump you for a younger guy, and you be like, why is a younger woman going back to a young guy? Because she thought you were older, she thought you were mature, and she thought you could handle her crazy extreme ass, and when she saw that you couldn't, she had to dump you. And you see what happens is then it's not until 10 years later when you see her again, and let's say you're 50 years old and she's 30. Well, at that point, you're not going to want to talk to her no more because now she's old and you can't do anything with her because she's already had all the sex with all the other guys before and after you. Now, at that point, she might want you because she know you now. Problem is, 10 years went by and she's 30 and you're 50. You don't want her no more. And if you do want her, it's only because you never got your shot with her. So there are cases where you might get a guy that's 50 years old dating a girl that's 30. You might get a guy that's 55 dating a girl that's 35. Or you might get a guy that's 60 dating a girl that's 40. Because 10 or 20 years went by that he couldn't get that girl. And when he finally had his chance with her, all it was is he just wanted his turn. And usually when a guy does that, it's because he just wanted the girl from the very beginning, but he messed up when he was in his 30s and had to go another 10 years not messing up with young women, because every time he gets a young woman's attention, he don't know what to do because no one tells him the rules. So if a girl starts to act like a bitch, sometimes she doing a form of a shit test. She playing mind games. And she want to see if I could push you to your breaking point. And if you have a very strong, high threshold, it might take her 9 or 10 months to try to finally find your breaking point. She's going to do that. And you see why you're trying not to come off as a daddy or a granddad or an asshole. You might have to talk to at least 7 or 8 younger women before you finally get one that's going to let you ask her out to lunch and dinner. So you got to speak to at least 7 to 8 young, attractive women before you find that one that will say yes. So the reason why I say 7 is because the first one, you're going to get rejected by the first one. It always happens. The second one might reject you because she confused. The third one is just like the first one. So that's going to be 3 times you get rejected. Then you're going to start wondering, is there any truth to what those punk-ass pickup artists and dating coaches said? They said younger women like older men. Well, I'm older. Why am I still getting rejected? Because they're not telling you got to do it at least 7 to 8 times. You got to at least speak to 7 young, attractive women before you can get one to say yes. That's what the pickup artists and dating coaches will never tell you. Now, the bad boy and the player will tell you the truth, good and bad. They will tell you got to keep doing it until you find one that will say yes. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not like the movies where at the end of the movie it happens the way you want it. And that could take 6 months. That could take 9 months. Hell, that could take 2 to 3 years. Hell, there are some cases where it could take 7 years for you to get a young, attractive woman right off the bat to just say yes. That's why you see a lot of rich, famous Hollywood celebrities like George Clooney just deliberately on purpose say, you know what, I'm going to exclude women from the age of 18 to 21 and start from age 22 or age 25, and then when the girl gets 30, what does he do? What do they call George Clooney in the media? An asshole for doing what? Dumping women on their 30th birthday. You know why? Because he always in this situation where he attracts young women. Problem is they start to think they can have the power and the control, and he has to remind them, I have the power, I have the control, I am the man. And when they don't want to understand that, that's when he got to do the one thing he don't want to do. And then he gets demonized in the media for doing it. Now, he ain't the only celebrity actor that does it. There are countless of actors that have had to do it. You saw what happened to Johnny Depp, right? He had his whole reputation destroyed because why? he was coming off too much like a granddad or a dad, too much like an asshole, and the woman had his reputation destroyed and trashed. So that's why I said there are rules for dating young, attractive women. Other women will come after you if they find out what you've done to that girl. You know, they'll slash your tires, they'll destroy your car, destroy your cell phone, they'll play psychological mind tricks on your mind because you did one girl wrong. Even if you apologize, they're still gonna get you. So I have to tell you the rules. Another one of the rules that they won't talk about is you gotta be in athletic shape. Now, the sex is gonna be great, okay? The sex is always gonna be great, but nobody tells you the rules. And you see, when don't nobody tell you the rules, that's not good. That's bad. So I had to tell you the rules because you guys get in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, and you be like, man, ain't no one ever told me this. That's why I said it ain't like the movies where at the end of the movie, the young, attractive girl finally comes around. Is what I just said. The first young, attractive girl is going to be hard-headed. The second one, she going to be confused. The third one is going to reject you just like the first one. When you get to girl number 4, she going to be just like girl number 2, confused. You get to girl number 5, it's 50-50 that she might, one minute she want to date, next minute she don't want to date. One minute she want to be in a relationship, the other minute she want to play around. You get to girl number 6, and girl number 6 will be a combination of all the other girls that came before. So it might last a year or two and then it falls apart. You finally get to girl number 7. You finally got one to say yes. So I'm trying to tell you how it really is supposed to go. The pickup artist and the dating coach don't want to tell you that, because if they tell you that, you won't listen to them no more. It's got to happen at least 7 to 8 times in a 10-year period. That's why I keep trying to make the rule telling you got to be 35 or over 35. Because what they're trying to tell you is the older you get, the easier it is for the young woman to make your situation easy. That's when your value goes up. By then, you already got a house. You already got a car. You already been established. So I'm trying to explain to you the rules, because they don't want to talk about the rules. So I'm trying to explain to you, by the time you accomplish all the stuff you're supposed to accomplish, like the house, the apartment, the car, you save all your money up, and you living good by yourself, and they see that, they'll come to you. But I'm also telling you, you got to go through some stuff before it happens. That's why I'm telling you men from the ages of 18 to 29, because I know a lot of guys be saying, well, I'm 30, I'm 33, well, I'm older, so why the young women why they tripping? I'm trying to explain to you what it is. And then you got to look for signs. You got to see if she got bipolar disease, is she, a narcissist. You got to look for all of that. Pickup artists and the dating coach, they leave all that out on purpose. And you be like, man, this young girl crazy, she nuts. She stalked me. And you see, that goes back to what I'm trying to tell you, the rules. One of the other rules is do the homework. Do the research. So when you find this stuff out, you know what you're getting yourself into. See, the reason why they come to an older man is because they think an older man can handle their sexual nature. They know no man from the age of 18 to 29 can't handle their sexual nature. So that's why they keep seeking out guys that's in their late 30s, their 40s, and their 50s, and their 60s who don't have a problem with the tattoos, the body piercings. They don't have a problem with them having sex with basketball and football players. That's why they mostly come after older guys. And the pickup artists and the dating coaches are never going to reveal or tell you that. Because them telling you that makes you go, oh, I didn't know all of that. And by the time you get 45 or 50, it would have taken you almost 3 decades to understand this information. So I'm just doing what the teacher just give you the answers so you don't torture yourself 10, 15, 20 years from now going, no one ever told me this. I'm telling it to you. That's what's going on. So when you see an older guy and a younger chick, you're always trying to figure out why the younger chick got all the tattoos and the piercings and why he ain't calling it out. The thing is, there's a time for him to call something out, but he also understands that if he starts to act like a dad too much, It's a turnoff to her. So when you see guys not say too much, that's because he knows the rules. The older guys who mess up all the time, it's because they don't know there's rules to this. And I'm telling you, there's rules. It may not seem like it, it may not feel like it, but there's rules. Start pissing off an 18, 19, 20, 21, or even a 22 or even a 24-year-old girl by talking too much. And I promise you, you will kill 90% of the sexual attraction. It'll take you 6 months, 9 months. It'll be 2 to 3 years and you still won't get it back. Promise you. Do something they don't like to piss them off, and I promise you, you'll be like, damn, this guy in the video, he's right. I said something stupid one too many times and it's over. And it'll be almost 10 years later before you get another young, attractive girl. See, by then, you got the experience, you know what to say, what not to say. I'm trying to tell you the rules so you will know. Until next time, peace.